Emmett, thanks for being here. I have to do the obligatory show of hands. How many of you are familiar with Twitch? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you have been on Twitch as a viewer? How many of you have been on Twitch as a streamer?
Yes. Clean sweep.
Okay, so it's not TwitchCon, but they know what your product is. So let's have you explain in your words what Twitch is and what the model is.
Right. So we help anyone who wants to stream themselves playing video games online and interact with their audience while they do it. And that might sound a little weird, and I just want you to imagine that instead you're an alien who's arrived on the planet, and you're observing people playing soccer for the first time, and there's these men in matching uniforms who are like trying to kick this sphere into this rope mesh for 90 minutes, but then no one can do it, and so that never happens. And a billion people around the planet are enthralled by this spectacle. And you start to get an idea of, okay, well, maybe you aren't a huge video game player, maybe you don't do that all the time, but you can see how someone else who was into video games might enjoy connecting with other people who are great at that and who care about that and who want to connect with it as well.
Okay, and you have branched beyond video games.
Yeah, so we've built a live video chat interaction service, and it turns out you can use that for a lot more than just video games. We recently started carrying Thursday Night Football. We've done Inspector Gadget. We've done Pokemon. Somewhat famously, we did Bob Ross. And it turns out that
now, if you were an alien and you saw Bob Ross,
I think you would be like, this makes sense. This man is a genius painter and so kind and encouraging. I understand why everyone would want to watch him. No, but actually, it turns out that Bob Ross was a lot of fun for our community because it's a thing everyone can come and do together. And it's a thing that almost anyone can connect with. And I think one of the things that I've been most surprised by recently is with Thursday Night Football on Twitch, we've realized anyone can be a sportscaster. And that's fun. That's a cool thing to do, just like casting yourself playing a video game. And so I think if you think about where Twitch is going, we've started with video games and gamers. But we really believe that live interactive video with chat works for any live video, works for any genre, whether it's sports or politics or music. And it's just a matter of figuring out the right format, the right recipe to bring it to that vertical.
So explain a little bit more about the mechanics of this. Like when you say Thursday Night Football, if I go to Twitch and I want to view or participate in sports casting, what's the experience as a viewer and as a streamer?
So right now, you have to be one of the 30 hand-picked streamers who've been given the right to co-stream because.
So not everybody makes a good sportscaster.
Well, not everyone's. No, we haven't convinced everyone that it's a good idea to expand that to an infinite number of people, and we're still testing the waters and figuring it out. But we started with just 3. We're at 30 now. You can see us going to 300 to 3,000 to everybody in the near future.
Okay, and so I go and I view. I have to follow one of their channels basically, and.
So you show up and you click on Thursday Night Football, the category, and there's a bunch of streams going. And you click on one, and instead of getting John Madden or whoever it is that they have doing Thursday Night Football streaming now, I don't actually watch sports ball. Yeah, isn't John Madden the sports ball football guy? I don't know.
Let's stick to gaming.
I might know more about that. Instead of whoever you would have as the football announcer, instead we have Golden Glove, one of our top streamers.
You all know Golden Glove,
You all know Golden Glove,
yeah.
right? Okay, anyway. He's announcing the game. And there's 30 other people doing it, and they all have these different communities, and they're taking questions from the audience, and they're reacting. And you can totally imagine a world where, as we expand the group of people who can do this, the next generation of talent shows up this way. Because if you think about what's happened in every other genre where we've managed to democratize content creation, it's turned out that the gatekeepers are doing a great job selecting some of the people who are good, and we're totally missing a huge group of people who are amazing at that thing. And so I'm really excited for us to be able to start opening up things beyond gaming. I think because gaming, there was no one doing it professionally, so we're the only game in town at some level at the beginning. Now there's lots of people doing game casting. But in sportscasting, we all have a model for how that works in our heads. And yet I think there's this huge opportunity for us to make that something that any kid could aspire to go try and just go hang their shingle out and see if people enjoy their model of it. And what we've seen with YouTube is that that can generate people who are amazing at making home videos. And what we've seen with Instagram is it makes these people who are amazing photographers have their shot, or influencers. I don't quite understand how that works. That's like with the sports ball thing for me. But but we've seen that happen all over the place.
So okay, so you mentioned influencers. I don't quite understand how that works either. But explain how you make money, and Twitch is owned by Amazon. You guys probably know that. But explain the business model for Twitch, and then let's go into how streamers make money on the platform.
So what's interesting is the answers to both of those questions is the same. Because we actually have a tenet at Twitch. We have a principle that we live by, which is we make money when you make money, and you make money when we make money. And we don't make money apart. We don't have the situation where you're off making a bunch of money and we're not, or vice versa, because we want to keep everybody aligned in terms of incentives. We want to win when you win, and we want you to win when we win. And so all of our products that generate any kind of significant revenue, TwitchCon tickets are a little different, I guess, but that's very much a sideline, are like advertising. And our advertising product is split with the streamer.
What percent do they get?
Depends on the individual streamer in question. There's a set of different terms depending on exactly who you are, how it works.
It's not fixed.
But it's not fixed. Not a fixed rate, and it depends on where you are in the world, because like there are a lot of dependencies on that. And then on top of that, we have a channel subscription product where you can subscribe to a streamer, and in exchange you get, and I know this is going to blow your mind, but you get these amazing emotes you can use in chat that no one else has access to unless they're a subscriber. That's the only benefit, really. The content's free.
How much
you get no
does it
access to the content. $5 a month.
Okay. Wow.
It's the primary way streamers make money now. It's bigger than advertising for our streamers. Yeah.
And some of them have sponsorships.
Some streamers sell sponsorships.
Do you get a cut of that?
Which, when it's done off-platform, we don't. We have an on-platform sponsorships thing, bounty board. It's possible to sell a sponsorship off-platform. One of our other rules is we want to win kind of honestly. We don't want to force people onto our monetization mechanisms if they're not as good as the alternative. Because I think that keeps us. We're on platform, right? We're integrated deeply. If we can't build a better product for you, like really, like maybe you should not use it then. So we generally find that once we have a product, we wind up moving people over.
That's a good slogan.
Yeah.
So, and then they can also get bits, which are like tips, right?
Yeah, so cheering is, you use bits to cheer. And a cheer is like, well, actually it serves a variety of different use cases. One of which is just like, that's awesome, here's a bunch of money. Another one is like, I have a question, will you answer it? Here's $5 to answer my question right now on stream in front of 1,000 people. Or just shout me out, like here's $10, please like shout out my friend, and here's his gamer tag. And that's also a surprisingly powerful and like useful thing for our streamers. And we're always looking to add new ways for them to monetize, because one of our core goals is creating a whole new job family. We think that there's this massive opportunity to help replace some of the jobs that are going away with new jobs. And in some ways, we're like the gig economy for entertainment, except we hope to be like the nice gig economy where people enjoy making a living there and they don't feel like they're being maltreated all the time. So I think that's important.
And most streamers don't make that much money, but just to give an idea of how much money you can make for those who have really, really succeeded and become popular. Ninja, anyone familiar with Ninja? Okay, oh my God.
Some people actually know who Ninja is.
Yeah, his real name's Tyler, but let's go with Ninja. So, so Ninja makes more than $400,000 a month on Twitch.
And so he's an exceptional case, obviously. But my favorite part about Ninja is when he started with us, we weren't Twitch. He started with us when we were Justin TV. And how
many of you remember Justin TV?
Yeah. So we were Justin TV before we were Twitch. And before we did this whole pivot, he was already streaming video games on Justin TV. And he's been grinding it. He was a Halo pro back in the day. And he's been grinding and trying to like make it happen for years. And he finally had his big break when Fortnite came out, and he was sort of the best Fortnite streamer. And everything kind of broke his way. But for me, that's a really cool story that we've helped like grow this entire career. He didn't like port an audience from elsewhere, he built it on Twitch. And I think that's really exciting.
And he's gotten so big that Drake actually, the musician Drake recently went on his stream, and it broke the record, right, for the most viewed stream on Twitch. How did that come about? I mean, do you have a hand in that, or does it just?
No, that just sort of happened one day. I got this text from my friend, dude, Drake's on Ninja's stream. And I was like, wait, what? And what I think is most interesting about that is that wasn't Ninja tapping into Drake's audience. That was Drake tapping into Ninja's audience. And we have the stats to prove it. Like if you dig in, most of the people watching that were longtime Ninja viewers who were like, ooh, this exciting thing is happening on Ninja's channel. I want to go check it out. And so really, it was this opportunity to connect this new set of viewers with sort of old school media. And that's really exciting. I think it's cool to see that actually happen on the platform.
OK, you mentioned Justin TV. A lot of people here are familiar with it. But give just a quick summary of the evolution of how Twitch came about and then the acquisition to Amazon. And you actually, your first startup, I read you sold on eBay.
Yeah, so.
Like he actually sold the startup on eBay.
Yes. We started a Google Calendar competitor. This is about a year and a half before Google Calendar came out. We saw Gmail and we're like, this should have a calendar.
A Google Calendar competitor if Google Calendar didn't exist.
So Gmail was there.
Got it.
And we were like, this should have a calendar. It turns out that we were not the only people with that idea. Google, in fact, had this idea as well. And it's cool to go back and look at the first version of Google Calendar and what we built, because we basically guessed exactly what they built. Like, our product and their product were identical, except that they had massive distribution and we had none. And so we kind of gave up on that one. In retrospect, I'm now a calendar power user, and there's all these things about Google Calendar I hate, and I actually think there's a lot of stuff we could have gone and built, but that's water under the bridge now. And so we sold it on eBay, which is very exciting.
For how much?
$265,000, I think, which was more money than I could conceive of at the time. It was amazing. Even after taxes, it felt like I'd gotten a real job for the year, which was great. And then we went on to start Justin TV, which was a bad idea. We were doing 24/7 reality television show about my friend Justin's life. And if you know Justin, that's like more plausible than you might think. Like Justin is the kind of person where if you're friends with him, you'd be like, oh, I can see why you'd want to have a reality television show about Justin. But it turns out that we didn't know anything about entertainment, but reality television is all about editing. You take a week's worth of effectively almost pseudo-scripted behavior and you compress it to an hour, and it's still not as interesting as dramatic television. And it turns out 24/7 reality TV is terrible.
And it was also really hard on Justin.
Yeah, he basically drove him insane.
Yeah.
He had to stop. And so, but it turned out that lots of other people wanted to stream live, and the technology we built to support the live video stream was actually broadly useful, so we pivoted to being a service that anyone could use to do a live stream, which worked better, and we had a bunch of growth. But we found that we kind of capped out in growth, we didn't really know what to do next. And I had this concept that the only content on Justin TV that I watched was the gaming content, because that's the only thing I actually enjoyed. And I kind of did some back-of-the-envelope math and said, OK, well, there's a lot of gamers. Gaming content's cheap right now because no one's charging you any licensing fees to use
We're going to get to
gaming. And you can go really big. You can make advertisers like it. And so we pivoted the company to work on gaming, which at the time I had no idea if it would work, but it did work. And that turned out to be a really successful and good product, which only took us about 7 years of iteration to wind up on.
And the Amazon acquisition?
We basically had a choice, right? Push towards IPO or sell, because those are the two things you do at that stage. And I hate raising money. Amazon made a very good offer, and I felt like they'd be a good caretaker. I looked at IMDb, I looked at Zappos, I looked at Audible, and they'd retained the CEOs, unlike every other tech company. And they seemed really committed to actually having Twitch be independent. And so I felt really good about that. I felt like I could sell the company. You make a good return on capital for your investors, for everyone who's been working on it for a really long time. And then we still get to keep running it independently. And Amazon's done a really great job for us in that way.
How many years has it been now?
4.5.
OK, and you're still there. OK, so I want to pivot to something that's in the news now, and that's Article 13. So European Parliament just passed this, just approved it, and it basically puts the onus, the liability of content, copyrighted content, on the internet companies. And so how does that impact Twitch?
So it's extremely unclear. The legislation was drafted, in my opinion, quite poorly, and it leaves a ton of questions open. It's totally unclear what we have to do to comply or not, which is why sort of we see the next phase as every member state now goes and writes their own rules for how you comply with it. And actually, in theory, if all those rules were written well, it might be OK, because it's very vague, which gives you a lot of room. I wouldn't generally recommend, as a legislative strategy, pass super vague legislation where no one knows what the outcome is going to be in advance. That feels like the wrong way to do it. But like, that's what we've done now by a very slim margin. And so we're going to be lobbying to make sure that we think that the right thing to happen is go build legislation that's going to enable fair use, enable people to experiment and try new things. And just because you're walking down the street making a recording and there's music that drifts into the background, your whole stream doesn't get taken down as a copyright violation, because that seems overwrought. And yet, that's one of the possible outcomes of Article 13. And so, yeah, we and about 5 million other people who have been signing the anti-Article 13 legislation believe that that's the direction we should go. Go a little deeper. What responsibility do you think that companies like Twitch should have when it comes to content that is copyrighted and there are rights there that Totally.
Your users are infringing on?
I mean, we've actually done a lot of research on this, and Twitch users don't infringe on people's rights. We're in the happy situation, whereas we're a user-generated content company where game companies see us as marketing, rightfully so. Like, I think this was actually, was this in Fortune? I can't remember. But like, there was a recent headline about how basically the marketing plan for Apex Legends was Twitch, which is more or less true. That's like how they got the word out. And I think that we're in that happy position where we have a bunch of people who are excited to have their stuff be streamed on Twitch. It's actually more for like smaller, like Twitch, Justin TV might not have survived having to comply with this when we were 3 years old. When we were 3 years old, it was 2011, right when we were getting ready to make the pivot into being Twitch. And I don't know that you get a new UGC site. So from one perspective, I guess I should be thanking the European Parliament for helping lock in monopolies for all the big players, which I'm not sure was their intent, but it's absolutely what I think a lot of the effect of the legislation is going to be.
But there are, and I realize it's very vague, but there are supposed to be some more flexible laws and restrictions on startups,
right,
according to the new regulations.
I think, and don't quote me on this because I'm not our policy expert, but I believe it's a 3-year delay before the rules kick in. So I don't know how many people here are familiar with 3-year-old startups, but my opinion is they're really good at like extremely high liability compliance regulation, right? That's not a burden for them at all when they're 3 years in. And I'm in favor of copyright reform fundamentally. And I think most people who follow copyright law would agree. There are all kinds of there are sites that are like dedicated to basically copyright violation, whose whole purpose in life is to enable piracy, and that's probably not ideal, to say the least. And then there's a bunch of sites, Twitch, Reddit, YouTube, who I don't think their primary thing is copyright violation. At least Twitch isn't. It's a bunch of people who are doing, I think, very legitimate activity. And then there's all these gray areas, like what exactly counts as copyright law? And one thing I've learned, because I've become an involuntary expert in copyright law over the past 12 years, is that even lawyers can't tell you what fair use is. And we go and we ask, what licenses do we need to do this? And the lawyers literally tell us, well, you could argue this license, that license. These people tell you need this license. We don't know. Is that fair use? That's never been tested in the courts. We don't know. We think probably. I'm not sure you want to create an incentive for companies to be forced to take the most conservative possible view or suffer unlimited copyright liability. That feels like the wrong compromise. I think we need a compromise. I'm all for. I represent effectively hundreds of thousands of content creators. Every Twitch streamer is a content creator. And we actually have a problem with piracy, where people steal Twitch creators' content and republish it on other video services
So maybe this
for
law will
advertising.
protect you.
Not the law I would have written for us.
Okay, we'll talk more broadly. And by the way, I want to go to you guys for questions in just a minute here. But talk more broadly about your sense of responsibility for all types of content, because this is a live streaming platform, and we've seen some of the issues that have come up with Facebook Live and YouTube and other platforms, and you're not immune from some of the same problems. What kind of rules do you have in place, and how do you enforce them?
So we've been iterating on our community guidelines now for about 11 years.
You just got really serious.
No, this is a serious topic. Like,
It
no,
is.
seriously, this is like the future of our democracy. Like, I'm not joking. Like, this is when I think about what the topics at work that get a lot of very like suddenly like, oh, it's not funny anymore conversations. It's the safety, public trust, community safety, community trust issues. And I absolutely think that technology companies have an obligation to care about that. I think that if you don't, you're being totally irresponsible, and it's something we care deeply about. And I think that one of the things that's worked to our advantage is we have to serve gamers. And I don't know if anyone here knows or has participated in video gaming communities, but they have a tendency sometimes to trend towards toxicity because so much of anonymous people trying to beat each other at a competitive thing, and that tends to get emotions running high. And so we've had to build anti-troll technology for video games. And it turns out that's actually generally applicable to a lot of the problems. And I think that's actually been an advantage for us in other places. And I think also the sort of more specific content focus has been an advantage for us. But
so you're saying basically that the fact that this was kind of endemic to certain demographics, you had to address this early on.
We've had to address this from day one. There's never been a time on Twitch where we haven't had to deal with this problem. And I think that one of the things that's sort of different about Twitch from a lot of content publishing options is we kind of make you earn your traffic. It's harder to go instantly viral on Twitch than it is on a lot of services because people come to Twitch to have a relationship with you, and they can't build a relationship in one video. Relationships happen over time. The biggest piece of advice we give streamers is like a consistent streaming schedule is the most important thing for you. But from a trust and safety perspective, that's actually a kind of a win, because like it means we have a longer time to judge whether someone's following our community guidelines before we send them any significant traffic. And so I think that's been a win for us. But I think that the other big difference in how we've approached it is we've always approached it that you need humans. So we use machine learning for moderation, and we use machine learning for making sure that bad actors don't get on the system. But machine learning is something we've layered on years later. For the first 4 years, everything we did was human-powered, and we learned ways to scale up our community's effort and scale up our employees' effort to use human power to make those decisions. And I stand by that decision. I think we're going to keep doing it because so much of this stuff is nuanced. So much of this stuff is intent and can't be detected by when we build a general artificial intelligence as smart as a human, caveat, that's probably going to work. But until we do that, we're going to need people in the loop. And I think so we always start with people first, not the algorithm first, and then we layer in machine learning and the algorithm to amplify the effectiveness.
Okay. Any questions for Emmett? Raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone over to you. Back there.
I'm curious. Oh, yeah.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Bonnie Simi from JetBlue Ventures. I have another life. I'm very involved in amateur sports and very passionate. I competed in luge. And Justin TV was actually a platform for the U.S. Luge Association. And I'm curious, when you pivoted, why was it gaming that you chose instead of, and now it looks like you're going back into sports, but that whole community, there's quite a bit of community around it.
We chose gaming because I felt strongly we had to choose just one category. And the video game content was the only content I like. Much respect to amateur sports people.
It was a personal decision.
But like, no, literally, I knew the customer. I was the customer. I was confident I could figure out what to go build because I was watching a bunch of gaming content on Justin TV, and I was like, I know why this is exciting. that doesn't mean that, I actually think there's an alternate world where we didn't take that approach and we started with some other vertical and it might have worked just fine, but not with me as a leader, because that was the content I knew.
Question over here, Adam.
What are your revenues, and are you profitable, and how many employees does Twitch have?
Those are my favorite questions. Our revenues are growing. Our profitability is undisclosed. And almost all of our employees are right here in San Francisco. What I'm most excited to announce about that is that we're going to be welcoming everyone into our Twitch office, into the lobby specifically. In the future, because we really hope to, I don't know, if you walk by us on Bush Street, you'll see the signs up there. I'm really proud of being part of San Francisco, and I've realized that—
You totally changed the topic.
Well, that's one of those questions you can't really answer.
I'm really happy to be in San Francisco.
No, because when I first moved here, I didn't know that I was going to be here forever. I thought maybe I'd be in San Francisco for 2 years. I didn't realize that we'd be here for a decade later. And I think that it's great to be able to set everything up here and hire a whole bunch of employees into the city.
About how many?
I don't know if we've disclosed that, so I can't tell you.
That's one of the perks of being part of Amazon. Any other questions for Emmett? We'll take one after the other, right back here. Do you guys have the same question, or?
Maybe.
Go ahead.
I'm Michael Dix with Intentional Futures. Maybe I'm not alone, but I was surprised by how compelling gaming as a live streaming phenomenon could be. And sports casting makes sense that could be democratized and have a lot more variety. But where do you see it going when you extend your imagination and think about this traversing lots of different categories? What might be next that could really be surprising and interesting for us and valuable?
I mean, I actually don't think it's going to surprise anyone. It's the stuff that's popular watching live now, basically, for the most part. Sports, music, politics. But I think that what people are missing is the amount of community that gets created when people do this. I think what's going to be surprising to everyone is how sports goes from something that you watch at home that's mostly an isolated experience, maybe with your friends on the couch, to something that has deeply connected online communities where people make friends and get married and find jobs through the people they meet in this hobby. I think that's how we've seen in gaming. I think it's going to apply across the board.
Other question?
Ben Ellis with Visa. Question for you. You were describing the pivot from Justin to Twitch, and you said, we weren't sure it was going to work, but it did. Was there a moment when you realized it was going to work, or when did you realize, there's actually something here?
So we set a bar when we were doing the pivot, and we said, if we can't get 25% growth a month for the next, I think it was either 3 or 6 months, we're just going to kill the project. And when we grew 40% a month for the next 3 months, I was like, oh, okay, this might work. It was still might work, but it felt like there's something here. We've found a thing where we tried to push the thing, and then it started rolling. And that's always a really, if you ever worked on a startup, that's a really good feeling and a good moment.